When I worked as an American visa officer, I saw the same mistakes over and over again in the DS-160 visa application for the USA. So that you can avoid these mistakes and get your visa for the United States, I'm going to tell you about 10 common visa application errors. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an American visa lawyer with over a decade of experience working for the government's two main visa agencies. And now I use the unique insights that I gained deciding thousands of immigration applications as a government visa officer to help people just like you get the visa you deserve. Have you ever looked at the DS-160 visa application form? Now, that's the form for non-immigrant visas, like a tourist visa or an H-1B work visa or a K-1 fiancé visa. If you've opened up the portal where this application is housed, or if anyone's told you about their experience with it, you probably already know that it's a beast. It's a long application form. It asks for a bunch of details, and there's a bunch of jargon they use in it that can make it hard to understand what they're actually asking for. Messing something up while filling out your US tourist visa application form can cost you. Usually it just results in an inconvenience, but there are some visa application mistakes that can get you denied and even sometimes get you barred from ever being able to go to the United States. I'm curious, do you know of someone who's had their visa application denied due to mistakes in the form? Let me know in the comments down below what happened. Here are 10 common mistakes people make in doing their DS-160 visa application. Now, the last one, number 10, it's actually the most common and it's by far the most important. So make sure you stick with me to the end so you hear about it so it doesn't trip you up in your visa application. Mistake number 1, applying for the wrong kind of visa. Now, in the DS-160 application form, there's a drop-down from which you've got to select what the purpose of your travel to the United States is. The problem is that the options available often don't match up very well with what a person considers the purpose of their travel to be. For example, someone going to the United States to visit friends or family or just going on vacation won't find an option that says any of those things. Rather, the one that's in fact the right fit for this kind of travel says Temp Business Pleasure Visitor with a capital B next to it in parentheses. What on earth is a business pleasure visitor? It's not very helpful, is it? If you do select that option, you'll have the chance in the next drop-down to select tourism/personal travel, which is a much more obvious choice. But you wouldn't even have this as an option if you didn't know to select business pleasure visitor from the first drop-down. It's not very intuitive, is it? So, what can you do about this? Well, spend a bit of time educating yourself about the different visa classifications before you start filling out the DS-160 visa application form. Google the phrase State Department Directory of Visa Categories and you'll find an official listing of visa classifications. Click on the link for the ones that you think could, given the description on that page, be a good fit for you. And then you can read in more detail and select the right one. The second major DS-160 mistake, not writing down and saving your application ID as well as your security question and answer. Now, your application ID is auto-generated when you start your application, and it's a string of 10 letters and numbers that's found in the upper right-hand side of the screen as you're viewing your application while you fill it out. You'll use this information to access your application later if you need to. For example, like if you don't finish it all in one sitting, or if the application times out, or if you do finish it but you want to go back in later and edit your application, you can pull it up using this information. If you don't have your application ID and you need to access your visa application, you'll be asked to answer the security question that you originally answered when you started filling out the visa application. Now, there are a handful of options for this question that you choose from a drop-down near the beginning of your application. They're things like, what is the given name of your mother's mother? And the answer to these questions will be something that's unique to you, and that's what you'll use later to access your application if you need to. The system will match up your answer with other identifying information about you and let you back into the application. Now, you may think that everyone would remember the answer to their security question because it's supposed to be unique to them, right? Well, I can promise you that's not the case. People do forget this all the time. So be sure to write down and save someplace safe, not just your application ID, but also the security question that you selected and the answer you gave. And for that answer, you need to record it exactly the way that you entered it in your application. Spelled the same way, spacing the same way, exactly the same. By the way, if you want more US visa tips, click the red subscribe button below. Also, check out the link I put in the description down below to a playlist of videos all about the DS-160 application. On to DS-160 form mistake number 3, entering the wrong name. The application asks you to enter your name as listed in your passport. I cannot tell you how many people fail to follow that instruction. They may think something like, well, my birth certificate's the first official document I ever received with my name on it, and so that seems the most official, so I'm going to go ahead and use that name as it's printed there, rather than how it appears in my passport. Or they'll think, well, the name that shows on my passport is just my formal name. I'm going to use what everyone actually calls me and what appears on maybe my school records or bank records and possibly everywhere else. No, don't do this. You need to enter your name exactly as it appears on the passport that you'll be presenting at your US visa interview. If you've got 2 last names or 2 family names and they're not hyphenated in your passport, then don't put a hyphen between them when entering them in your Form DS-160 visa application. I cannot overstate this. Your name needs to appear exactly as it does in your passport. US visa application mistake number 4, messing up your photo. So as part of the visa application process, you've got to upload into the system a passport style photo of yourself. But it can't just be any old picture. For the sake of convenience, a lot of people just pull out and try to use any picture of their face that they already have, like their Facebook profile picture, for example. The problem is that pictures like this almost never meet the US government's requirements for this visa application photo. There are pretty strict rules for this photo, both in terms of how it looks and from a technological perspective regarding the properties of the file that you're uploading into the system. There's a link in the description of this video to the guidelines for these photos. Be sure to follow them in taking and uploading your picture. Number 5 on our list of visa application mistakes is not printing and keeping a copy of the confirmation page that you get at the end of your application and then taking this with you to the visa interview. Now, after you hit submit on your visa application, you'll be shown a confirmation page, and it contains some of the basic information about your application and says that you successfully submitted the application. It also has on it your application ID number, which we discussed earlier, and a barcode. Now, this is what the embassy or consulate will use to pull up your application when you show up for your visa interview. When you get to the confirmation page, click the print confirmation button and print it out. Also, email it to yourself. There's a button for that on the confirmation page too. You'll definitely want to do this if you don't have a printer at home or wherever you are when you finish the application, such that you'll need to pull it up and print it at a later date. So print out this confirmation and put it someplace safe where you won't forget to take it with you when you go for your visa interview, like maybe with your passport. The 6th DS-160 mistake on our list is not being thorough. You need to answer every question that's being asked, and you gotta be thorough in doing so. Now, sometimes this is inconvenient. You may have to look back at your records and possibly do some digging to get the information they're asking for. You're going to be tempted to skimp or possibly to just put the things that you think are most important, but that might not fully respond to the question being asked or give them the information they want. For example, you're asked to provide employment information for every job you've had going back 5 years. As a visa officer, I frequently saw people who listed just their current job instead of listing every job they had going back 5 years preceding the application, like the question asks you to do. Now, I personally was inclined to think that, at least for most of them, it was just a matter of laziness and not wanting to click the little add another button at the bottom of that section and type in all the requested information for each employer. Or I'm sure that some people just didn't read the instructions carefully. But believe me, whatever the reason for leaving this information out, there are visa officers out there who will hold this against an applicant. They may think that you're trying to hide something by not listing past jobs that you've had, or it may just annoy them that you couldn't be bothered to follow the instructions. You need to read all of the instructions carefully and be thorough in giving all of the information requested. Number 7, rushing through the visa application. People make mistakes when they hurry. The DS-160 application form is long and detailed. Now, filling it out properly, which means finding all the information that it asks for, can be exhausting. Now, a lot of visa applicants think they have to get the whole thing done in one sitting, and so they start cutting corners or just making simple mistakes because they're tired as they go along. They rush to get the thing finished and they mess up. For example, as a visa officer, I often saw people put the wrong dates for things or leave out information about family members, among other things. Don't do this. What I suspect a lot of these people don't know is that you can step away from the application, allowing you to take a break or to gather the information that you need, and then pick it back up again later. You just need your application ID number to access the application. Don't worry, it'll save your progress. You won't have to start from scratch. Alright, American visa application mistake number 8, selecting the wrong embassy or consulate. One of the first things that you do in filling out your visa application is to select the location where you'll be applying for the visa. In other words, you're selecting the place, the embassy or consulate, where you'll actually have your visa interview. Applicants sometimes don't know what to select for this, and they just randomly pick a place from the list in the dropdown. Or they don't know, based on where they live, to which diplomatic post in their country they should apply. It can be confusing in countries where, in addition to the embassy, there are consulates that issue visas. Now, selecting in your application an embassy or consulate to which you don't end up ultimately applying for your visa isn't the end of the world. It won't be grounds for rejecting your application, but it can look a bit strange if you selected some place that just makes no sense for you and your situation. And you don't want to look strange. You want the officer thinking about the merits of your case and not wondering why it is that you selected some place that doesn't make any sense for your situation. Number 9, letting someone else do your DS-160 application for you. Remember, it's ultimately you who's responsible for the information in your visa application. If you use a visa consultant or a travel agency or notario to help you with your application, and they put something in it that isn't correct or otherwise mess it up, you won't be able to claim ignorance and say, "Oh, sorry, someone else put that in my application for me. It's not my fault." Now, this scenario happens all the time, and if it causes a visa officer to think that you lied, it can lead to you getting banned, possibly for life, from being able to get a US visa or any other American immigration benefit. Fill out your own visa application form. That way you can ensure that everything's correct and that you know exactly what's in the application. Finally, DS-160 visa application mistake number 10, and this is by far the most important, it's not being honest. Do not lie or exaggerate or leave out any negative information that the application calls for. Just don't do it. In life, honesty is the best policy, and so it is with your US visa application and your visa interview for that matter. Again, not being truthful or being deceptive by not revealing something that the government's asking you about can ruin your chances of ever going to the United States. And while the US government's not all powerful, you'd be surprised to learn how much information they do have about people. And also, visa officers are trained to sniff out fraud. So there's a very real chance that you will get caught if you're not honest in your visa application. Avoid having to worry about this by just being honest. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. If you found it helpful, click subscribe below so you don't miss out on the unique visa insights that I share here.